Greetings to all of our listeners. I'm here with my honored guest, Enes Kanter Freedom. He's in New York, United States. I'm from Slovenia, and it's beautiful that with modern technology we can have such a long distance relationship talk. I decided to interview Enes because his life story, his career in sport is very remarkable, but that is not the most remarkable thing about him. What I see and what I appreciate most about you, Enes, is that you are one of the few people who basically has or had a pretty very good, comfortable life, good career, and still was willing to sacrifice all of these things that to usual people are the most important, safety and comfort, and you are willing to sacrifice this for principles. So this is something really remarkable. I hope that with your message we can convince more and more people to take more principled stance and not to just look on a short-term benefits in this life, but also what kind of political system and what kind of countries we live in. So thank you for accepting this talk with me. Appreciate it. Let's start like that. You changed your surname from Kanter to, I think first to Gulen and then to Freedom. Can you explain us what happened in your past 10 years? What was going on in your life? Because you had pretty amazing roller coaster.
Well, because of the same last name, my family in Turkey was getting a lot of pressure. I started to talk about some of the problems that are happening in Turkey around a little over 10 years ago, and that really bothered the Turkish government because, I was talking about all the corruption scandal that President Erdogan was involved, and also his family. I was, talking about the political prisoners in Turkey and all some of the human rights violations, and that really bothered the Turkish government. So they really wanted to silence me, and they try to put as much as pressure they can put possible on my family. They fired my dad. He was one of the biggest scientists in Turkey. My sister was went to medical school for 6 years and she still cannot find a job. I think the saddest one was my little brother because he was playing basketball in Turkey and he was one of the best players in his team, but just because of the same last name, he was getting kicked out in every team. So, my family was getting so much pressure, they had to put a statement out there and said, we are disowning Enes publicly. You can actually find the letter on the internet. Yeah. The Turkish government didn't believe that, and they sent police to my house in Turkey, and they raided the whole house, and they took every electronics away, phones, computers, laptops, iPads, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. They couldn't find no evidence, but they still took my dad in jail for a while. But we put so much pressure from here to Turkey, they had to let him go. I experienced all these violations pretty much throughout my whole NBA career. The reason I wanted to change my last name because I think after air, water, and food, the freedom is the most important thing a human being can have. So I really wanted to make this word freedom part of me and carry it everywhere I go. And every arena that I go and visit to play basketball, and they were chanting freedom just because of my last name. I put that word behind my jersey and make that word part of me. So for that reason, and it is important to inspire the young generation. So I have that last name now for the last 3 years, and I'm really happy about it.
But how difficult it must have been for you, to see what your government is doing to your family, and what is your relationship now with the family? Can you even have any meaningful relationship?
Yeah. So last time I saw my family was almost 10 years ago. I think as an activist, as a freedom fighter, the most challenging part of is when you go against dictatorships, what they can do to your family. I'm in America. I live a pretty good life in this country, but my family is definitely going through um, lot of tough situation. I mean, my dad was one of the biggest scientists in Turkey, and he got fired, and they put him in jail just because of I talk about human rights violations, and my dad had nothing to do with it. My family had to publicly disown me just because of that. I think what your family is facing is the most challenging part when you're fighting against dictatorships.
Mm. Because it's like a mafia when they're trying to press on your weakest points to kind of try to crush you, right?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
is, is there any option that you can bring them, or that they can leave Turkey, or they are like in prison there?
We tried many times, but unfortunately, what some of these governments do, they took people's passport away. So you're not really allowed to travel outside of Turkey. And I mean, my family will love to leave country of Turkey and then come to America or anywhere else, in Europe. But just because of they've been watch every step they take, or the government listen to their phone conversations and or follow their IP numbers every day. 1 second.
I
Every day.
understand.
So for that reason, it's tough for them to leave.
Okay, now next question. Like most of the usual people hearing our talk now would ask themselves, like, okay, Enes, but was it so bad in Turkey that you had to kind of sacrifice your name and publicly go against your president? Like, why didn't you just, kind of let it go? Was it really worthy?
People needs to understand. I play basketball at NBA, and I have a huge platform. People knows my story because of that. You know, but on the other side of the world, not only in Turkey, but in many dictatorships, there are lots of people out there losing their loved ones, losing their lives, and losing their homes. I think one thing that our world is missing right now is empathy. You have to put yourself in their situation, you know? So of course I could have just stay quiet and not talk about any of these issues. I could have my family with me. I could have millions of dollars. I could have been playing an NBA right now, but there are some things in life that is more important than myself, more important than basketball and NBA. So I'm trying to be the voice of all those innocent people out there who don't have a voice. There are thousands of people in jail right now suffering. I mean, for example, Turkey right now, there are close to 17,000 innocent women and also a little over 800 babies and infants are in jail right now suffering, you know? So
Infants, babies.
babies, kids, yes. And when I say these numbers, sometimes people think I exaggerate. These numbers actually is given by some of the big human rights foundations. You can literally go on any website and read about these. So to me, it was a difficult but an easy decision. Of course, losing your NBA career, losing your family was very challenging, but same time, to me, it was a easy decision because on the other side of the world, people are suffering. And I believe this platform is given me by God, and I have to use it to be the voice of anything.
I like how you mentioned God now, because when I was reading about you and also about like political history, recent history of Turkey, um, I've noticed like there are two main camps battling right now, or for power in Turkey. So it's this Erdogan camp and this Gulen camp.
Mhm.
And maybe you can share with us what are the differences between those two streams, and why they used to be like together and then they separated. What differentiates them philosophically as well?
So the media in Turkey always try to make it seem like they were allies, but I actually asked Mr. Gulen, and they were never allies. They were never together. That is all media, the media's fault in Turkey. So they were never friends. They were never allies. You know, they met a couple times. Yes, they have pictures out there together. Yes, but they were never allies. Um,
Mm.
since till 2012, Erdogan tried to look like a democratic leader. He was talking about Western values. He was talking about European Union. But then in 2013, starting with the corruption scandal, Erdogan literally destroyed his reputation, you know, and he was literally stealing from people. And actually, there are a lot of recordings out there. If you go on YouTube, you can hear all kind of conversations that Erdogan having with his son about, you know, stealing money from people in Turkey. And um, so the Gulen movement was the biggest and the most strongest movement in Turkey. And they have one of the biggest newspapers. They have one of the biggest and most watched TV channels, shows. And once the corruption scandal happened, the Gulen movement was the only movement was saying, "Do not steal from people," and that really made Erdogan mad. So after that, Erdogan started to go around and shut down media outlets who are affiliated with the Gulen movement. He
Mm.
started to put innocent journalists in jail, and he started to go around and shutting down media outlets and shutting down schools and prep schools. And that was the actually first time I said something. I was like, I don't care who you are, but if you are fighting against free media, I'm gonna say something about it. Um, I mean, everybody knows outside of Turkey that Gulen movement stands for peace, stands for love, stands for universal peace. But that really bothered Erdogan because the Gulen movement was raising generations who ask questions to their leader. I think the one thing that the dictators like Erdogan doesn't want, the generations that is going to ask questions to them. Erdogan only wants yes men's around him.
Mm.
That the generation that is not going to ask questions. But what the Gulen movement was doing, they were going around and open up these schools who focuses on math and science academies. So for that
Mhm.
reason, that really bothered Erdogan. And every wrongdoing that Erdogan was doing, he blamed the Gulen movement for it.
So, if I understand you correctly, already from the beginning, in their own perspective about the future of Turkey, those two movements were very much different. So, Erdogan, if I understand, is much more traditionalist, and Gulen is much more, like you said, universalist. It's much more for like for universal human rights, not just for the glory of the empire. Because we often see today Erdogan as someone who wants to build another strong Turkish empire of the past, like Putin with Russia.
Mhm.
Is this correct assessment?
So Erdogan wants to be the next sultan or
Yeah.
caliph, you can call it, in Turkey. But what Mr. Gulen wants, when I have a conversation with Mr. Gulen, and when he actually said one thing that really inspired me. He said, it doesn't matter what your background is, your skin color, or your religion, or wherever you're from. The most important thing in life is leave your differences on the table and trying to find what we have in common, because we only have one world to live. and we need to make this world better together. And that's the key word, together. That quote itself, it really inspired me, because he cares about the whole humanity. It doesn't matter you're Christian, you're Jewish, you're black, you're white, wherever you're from. He cares about everyone, because he says, when you see someone, see human first, and then everything else comes. The religion, the skin color, blah, blah, whatever, But he said, when you look at a person, see human being first and treat them like human beings.
So you think that today Turkey under Gulen would be much more different, much more tolerant place?
So Gulen's goal was never politics. He said it many times that he does not want to get him or any of his followers. He said, stay away from politics. He just want a democratic Turkey, because Mr. Gulen or any of his followers have no problem with Turkey. They love their country, they love their flag, they love their people. Their problem right now is with the current regime, Erdogan regime, because they believe, because we believe that once the Erdogan regime is gone, Turkey is going to become democratic again. So that's why we are fighting so hard to have that democracy in Turkey, because Turkey plays a very important role in Europe, in Middle East, because Turkey could have been the bridge of Islam and West. But just because of Erdogan's regime and his policies, right now it's impossible.
Do you think that Turkey right now under Erdogan is risking even more of an intolerant future, even more of a belligerent language, and possibly some kind of military expeditions as Putin had with Ukraine, because Erdogan often also looks on Greece or on other neighbors, on Arab neighbors, in a similar way as Putin looks on his smaller neighbors?
So, I mean, it's when I even talk about it, it's really sad, because Turkey is a NATO ally, But if you look at what's happening for the last 5-6 years, Turkey does not act like a NATO ally. I mean, America just kicked Turkey out of NATO. Sorry, America just kicked Turkey out of F-35 program, just because of Turkey is buying S-400s from Russia. So, so are you a Russian ally or an American ally?
Yeah, exactly.
You have to make a decision.
It's not acting morally. Either go out of the NATO in this way, right?
Exactly. So that's why a lot of the people are asking, is Turkey really acting like a NATO ally? But not only that, if you look at what's happening with Turkey right now, Erdogan is actually helping lots of terrorist organization out there. I mean, if you look at what I believe it was on Washington Post, Erdogan got caught was sending weapons to ISIS, and many journalists caught him, and this was a huge news. And also, Erdogan gives passports to some of these terrorist leaders out there, and they go in and out of European countries. Erdogan is threatening the whole Europe. And he says, if you don't listen what I have to say, I'm going to let all the refugees go to Europe. So he's literally is threatening every European country, and it is unacceptable. So not only America, not only the West, but I think European countries needs to step up and say enough is enough. And Erdogan is acting like a dictator, and we have to take some concrete action against it.
You're now in America. You have a better understanding of a current political atmosphere there. Mm-hmm. What are the emotions about Turkey and Erdogan right now? Is America gonna help dissidents like you and the Gulen movement to kind of make a comeback in Turkey? And
so when I have conversations with senators, congressmen, some people in the White House, they said, "Don't worry, guys. We know what you guys stand for. There's a reason that the Gulen movement goes around over 100 and I believe 70 countries in the world and open up dialogue centers, open up schools, which it doesn't matter you're Muslim, you are Jewish, you're Christian, you believe in God or you don't believe in God. You can actually go to these schools and learn about life. These are not really religious schools. These are, math and science academies. So they say, people in America, and also not only in America, but when I go and have a conversation with, the government in Canada or some of the European countries, some NATO leaders, they said, "Don't worry, we know what you guys stand for, and we have your back no matter what." And that actually gives me so much hope for the future, because there are thousands, maybe millions of people who are suffering under these dictatorships. So when a country like America, country like some of the, some Western countries or NATO allies comes out there and says, "We care about you guys and we don't care about what Erdogan does, we're going to support you no matter what." Erdogan put 65,000 people's name on Interpol list in one day. And many of the European countries, America, Canada, said, "We don't care about what Erdogan is doing. We care about what you guys stand for." So they did not take that Interpol arrest warning seriously. So for that reason, that gives me so much hope for the future.
What kind of message did you get from European states? Because I have a sense that European Union country is much more timid, much more disorganized about these questions.
Yeah. So I went to Belgium, and I had a really good conversation with some people in European Parliament. And that actually, whatever the American government is saying, they literally said the same thing. They said, "Listen, for the last 20, 30 years, we've been following you guys everywhere. And every country you guys go to, we've been watching you guys, every step you take. But so far, you guys are bringing nothing but peace and education to those countries." I mean, you look at every country that the Gulen movement is in right now. They have dialogue centers. They have, prep schools. They have schools that the people can go and learn. I think our world is going through some very tough times because of uneducated people. If we can, educate our youth, we are going to have a better and brighter future. So for that reason, I believe, we have to invest in our future and invest in our youth.
You mentioned now the Gulen schools and all of the teachings that they do throughout the world. Can you explain us what is the essence of Gulen's teachings and Gulen's idea about Islam? Because often we see today in modern world Islam as being very much intolerant or very much aggressive. And what is the difference of Gulen's outlook on Islam that differentiates him from other Islamic scholars?
Mm-hmm. So he cares about the whole humanity. It doesn't matter you are Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whoever you are. I mean, as I said before, we have to see human beings first,
Right.
And I think, radicalization right now is on the rise. So we got to do whatever we can to de-radicalize this young generation, Peaceful protests are fine, but I think once you go to violence, it's unacceptable. And right now you see people are, dying on both sides, and everyone is talking about, Israel and Palestine, yes, but there are people dying on both sides. Kids are innocent. It doesn't matter you're a Jewish kid, you're a Muslim kid, you're a Christian kid. Kids are kids. The people behind the desk are the one that giving the commands and making the decisions, but innocent people on the streets are the one that is getting hurt. So somehow we have to find a way to build bridge between religions, between cultures, and between countries. We have enough walls, so somehow we have to knock down those walls and start building bridges between nations, between religions, and between cultures. um, I think that is the one thing that really stood up when I have a conversation with him, and also about his teachings. It doesn't matter which side you're on. Innocents are innocents. Kids are kids. Women are women.
Mm.
And also, if you look at the teachings of our prophet, he says, even when we go to war, we have rules. When we go to war, he's talking about Muslims. When we go to war, we cannot kill babies, kill women, kill elderly. We cannot destroy religious buildings. We cannot kill rabbis or any kind of religious leaders, pastors. You're not even allowed to kill animals, or cut down trees. And this is the teaching of Mr. Gulen,
Mhm.
So for that reason, I think we cannot solve our problem with violence. We have to educate our youth so they can have a better future.
Right. Well, uh, whenever I've been to Turkey, yeah, that was one of the things that I did notice, that like elementary school program for many people is very, very much basic, especially in the countryside. And do you think that this is like a deliberate thing, that the government does not want to improve on schools? Because from my perspective, if you want to have a growing economy, you need to have that, right? As well.
So when I remember an interview that Erdogan did, actually, he said we have to open up more prisons in Turkey. And I think that was the one thing that I actually lost my mind. Instead of saying we have to open more dialogue centers, we have to open more schools, we have to open more hospitals, this guy Erdogan is saying we have to open more prisons, because right now prisons are full. If you're in Turkey, and if you say anything against the Turkish government or Erdogan himself, you will be in jail the next day. And there are many examples of it. For that reason, Erdogan is trying to um, put that fear in Turkish people's eyes, you know? Um, so yes, Erdogan is doing this on purpose. He doesn't want educated generation, because once they're educated, they will start asking questions to their leaders. I mean, for that reason, there are many journalist accounts on social media are banned in Turkey. So right now, if you go to Turkey and if you try to get on Twitter or X, whatever you call it, and try to get on my account, it says it's banned in Turkey, because he doesn't want any of Turkish youth to follow me or listen what I have to say. Even
Right.
whenever I play basketball in NBA, the Turkish government literally banned every team that I played against, that I play with, So because he doesn't want create a hero. He just want himself to be a hero. So
Right.
it's sad, because I mean, whenever I talk about Turkey, people think I hate my country. People are wrong. I love Turkey. I love my flag. I love my people. Turkey is one of the most, beautiful country. Istanbul is one of the most beautiful city in the world. But just because of these problems are happening, it's impossible for many people to visit right now.
What do you think? Of course, you haven't been to Turkey for a very long time, but what do you think, or what Turkish people tell you? What is your current stance among Turkish people, commoners?
Mm-hmm.
Do they know you, or you are completely shut off from their minds?
So yes, they know me really well. I mean, if you're in Turkey, obviously, if you're against the Turkish government, Erdogan's government, I will say, they pretty much declare you as a terrorist, as this like bad guy terrorist. But if you're outside of Turkey, I have so many amazing conversation with Turkish people, and not only Gulen followers, but other sides too. Even with Kurdish people. I have many amazing conversations with them too, because they've been oppressed by Turkish government for years and years. So, if you're outside of Turkey, then I can have a better communication with you. But if you're inside of Turkey, unfortunately, Erdogan is pretty much controlling the media. So you are like pretty much a brainwashed, because all day there are so many propaganda on television, newspaper, channels. So you don't know anything better. Even when you go to social media, many accounts who are opposing to Erdogan's government are banned. So you don't really get any kind of fresh news.
Right. Can you explain me this timeline? When was this point of no return, or point when Erdogan went too far? Because he was democratically elected. He was popular first. Turkey's economy before he came into power was pretty bad, pretty poor country. And he had some immediate successes. And that's how it often starts with the dictators, right?
Yeah.
But when was the point where we can say now he fucked it up and he went too far? What did he do? Like,
I think it all started in 2016. There was a big attempted coup attempt happened in Turkey.
Coup.
Coup attempt, yes.
Yeah.
Happened in Turkey. And after that, he blamed the Gulen movement for it. But nobody knows about it. But the night of the coup attempt, I was with Mr. Gulen, literally sitting right next to him. And when one of his followers brought him the news with an iPad and said, there's a coup attempt happening in Turkey, he looked at the news and he said, he was very shocked. And he said, please tell all of our friends around the world and let's start praying for Turkey. And literally 2 hours later, Erdogan came out and blamed the Gulen movement. But I was with Mr. Gulen that night. Him or any of his followers did not attempt the coup attempt, because I was literally sitting right next to him. So I was seeing what he was doing. And after the coup attempt, I actually had a lot of, conversation with people in the White House, some of the American, senators and congressmen. And they said one thing that actually really, really, left the mark. They said, if you want to understand who did the coup attempt, you have to look at the benefits of the coup attempt. So after the coup attempt in Turkey, Erdogan literally took over the military, the judicial system, the police, everything. He started to put everyone who are against Erdogan in jail. So pretty much America was telling me that Erdogan did the coup attempt to his own country, so he can take over everything. So I think 2016, he pretty much became the real dictator,
In a real sense. Like recently, you had elections in Turkey, or 1 year ago or something. How do you judge these elections? Is this like, do you still have a kind of opposing political parties, like real candidates, or everything is already just a drama?
So to be honest with you, I was not hopeful from the elections, because before the elections, Erdogan put a statement out there and said, we are blocking all the international observers, all the United Nations observers, and that statement itself shows that Erdogan is going to cheat. If you are going to be honest about the election, why would you block international observers? You know, and that puts a big question mark on everyone's head. Why would Erdogan block them coming into Turkey and watching the elections? You know,
it's like a confession. Yeah.
Exactly. And actually, during the elections, many accounts in Turkey was putting lots of videos out there about how Erdogan is cheating on some of the cities in Turkey. You know, so I was not hopeful at all. But just recently, it was around a few months ago, there was this big mayoral election happening in Turkey. And finally, people are started to wake up. So it is a hopeful case if we can focus on it, if people can wake up and says enough is enough, we are tired of living under this dictatorship, we have to go out there and protect our rights against a dictator. So Erdogan lost major cities in Turkey. So people are started to finally wake up. But you know, the next presidential elections in Turkey is going to be in 2028, I believe. So I hope that our Turkey won't suffer too much.
Right. So you think that there still is hope that Turkey can turn the tide democratically and not slip into the state of Iran, where you have a population that is basically against the regime, but they can't do much against the regime because the regime has such a strong oppression against them.
You know, just a few weeks ago, Erdogan actually had an interview and said he wants to join BRICS, where you know dictators and dictatorships like China, Russia, and Iran involved in it. If Turkey joins BRICS, I think it's going to be too late. You know, right now the only reason that Erdogan is not acting like a completely crazy person is because of NATO and because of America. Erdogan is scared of America. But once Erdogan joined BRICS, and it's the alliance of pretty much dictators, and Erdogan is going to do whatever he wants to do. So I think before it's too late, Western countries, America, European Union or European Parliament needs to step in and said enough is enough. You know, with these kind of dictators, the soft talk is never work. You know, we have to take concrete actions against Erdogan's regime and maybe put sanctions on them. So we got to do whatever we can to help those people over there because, like I said again, Turkey plays a very important role in Middle East and Europe, and we gotta do whatever we can to save that kind of country.
So maybe next elections maybe the last ones. I mean, it's the most crucial elections for Turkey.
I think if Erdogan wins the next election, he is going to become
very powerful,
the Sultan the rest of his life. And whenever he dies, his son is going to take over. So before that happens, the country's America needs to step in and says no, because Turkey is literally becoming the next Iran. And we got to do whatever we can to stop that.
Okay, what do you think is the reason why people, not just in Turkey, but also in Russia or in other countries that are, let's say, semi-dictatorships, like dictatorships where people are actually, choosing their dictator and sometimes even cheering for them. What do you think is the reason that Erdogan still has? I don't think that his popularity in Turkey is as big as Putin's popularity is in Russia, but still there are quite so many people who probably, very much cheer for him, genuinely. So what is the rationale, and why other competitors from democratic sides are not able to gain votes from them?
Well, because they're in jail. There is this one Kurdish leader, Selahattin Demirtas. I'm not sure if you know him or not, but he's in jail. He is actually um, one of the leaders that has a charisma and that has power to go against Erdogan. But what Erdogan did literally put him in jail, and he's been in jail for the last maybe 3, 4 years now. You know, so there are leaders that can go against Erdogan, but unfortunately, right now they're in jail just because of Erdogan knows that they're going to steal lots of vote from him. I think if you, in a country, if you can control the media, if you can control the journalists, and if you can take over the the judicial system, I think you can pretty much do everything. So, and you can brainwash people because you control the system, you control the newspapers, you control every news that goes out there, you control the social media, you control the every TV channel. And if you go against that Erdogan's policies, then that channel knows that there is a big potential that Erdogan's government will come and shut it down. So the Erdogan puts a big fear in people's eyes, and they've been brainwashed. So that's why we have other countries that needs to step in and says enough is enough. Because I'm not really hopeful from the people inside of Turkey because they've been brainwashed. I'm not blaming them. It's all Erdogan's fault because Erdogan has been brainwashing them with propaganda the rest of their lives. But we have to come up with concrete actions, maybe put sanctions on individuals around Erdogan, and that is going to shake up the regime.
Okay, you said step in and let's help turn the tide in Turkey. But how would that in practice actually look like? In a case of Russia, like we have a tough opponent with very strong nuclear arsenal. Turkey is also militarily quite strong, regional power, doesn't have such a big arsenal as Russia, but still, how would that pressure from European Union or America look like? And are there any packages right now in preparation for Turkey?
So Turkey is not Russia yet. Turkey is not Iran yet, or Turkey is not another North Korea or Venezuela. Turkey still a NATO ally. So for that reason, if all the NATO allies comes together and said, listen, you have lots of human rights violations happening in your country. You don't stand with Western values. You don't stand with, EU, European Union values, and you cannot become best friends with these dictators and pretty much, buy weapons from them and still try to become a NATO ally. You have to make a decision. So I think for that reason, I mean, it's just crazy to me how the America especially still letting Turkey get invited to NATO summits. I mean,
Right.
literally, this guy Erdogan helps groups like Hezbollah or terrorist groups like ISIS.
Yeah.
And when America comes out, right, and invites them to some of these summits, so what kind of message are we giving? You know?
Yeah. Right.
So for that reason, and I'm not making this up. If you go on internet and if you read, you can read all kind of news. Just recently, Erdogan had a meeting with the leaders of Hamas in Turkey. Before October 7th, Erdogan met with the leader of Hamas. And
Right.
people were shocked. And they were like, what are you doing? So I think Erdogan is not only threat to Turkey, but if you look at what's happening, Erdogan is harassing Greece. Erdogan is harassing Armenia. Erdogan is harassing many other regions around Turkey. So
Yes.
that's why Turkey plays a very important role geopolitically, and also like Turkey's in a country in Europe.
Yes, of course. And Turkey can make the things in this region for the worse or for the better. If they are too belligerent, we can have lots of new problems and fighting areas. But what are your friends among U.S. senators saying? Like, is there any pressure gonna be done on Turkey in NATO, or are there any pressure mechanisms in NATO? Because as much as I know, there's no option for NATO to actually kick out a member.
Yeah. So just recently, actually, members of the Congress, 142 of them wrote a letter to President Biden. I don't know if you have seen the letter or not, but they were asking Biden to hold Erdogan accountable, because right now Erdogan is in Washington, D.C., and he's meeting with some of the NATO leaders. And the members of the Congress, you can actually find the letter on the internet. They were asking to hold Erdogan accountable, So that letter sent to President Biden, I believe 2 days ago, and President Biden read it. And I hope during their meeting that President Biden is going to raise that issue and said, listen, we know that, you're one of our allies, but act like it. Soft talks with Erdogan never worked. Diplomacy with dictators never works. So that's why we have to take concrete actions. When I have conversation with many senators and congressmen and congresswomen, they said, well, we hope that our administration in America takes a tough actions against Erdogan. If not, Turkey is becoming more and more like Iran every day. And I mean, Turkey was one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and we don't want to lose Turkey. I think that's the one thing that they want to say. We don't want to lose Turkey. We got to do whatever we can, save Turkey from Erdogan.
What is the stance of presidential candidate Trump about Turkey and the future of dictatorships? Because sometimes he gives out messages as if he is pro-dictatorships, and sometimes against. So what is your impression?
Well, I mean, I think I think they are both really soft on when it comes to Erdogan. President Biden, before he got elected, he was just there's actually a video out there on internet, and he was saying the only problem is on the region is Erdogan, and once Biden gets elected, he's going to take a lot of concrete actions against Erdogan. And then it's been almost 4 years now, and he has not taken any kind of actions against Erdogan. I mean, same with Trump, and I think Trump was a little tougher on Erdogan than Biden when it comes to certain issues, because I believe I had a conversation with Mike Pompeo. They did put sanctions on Turkey at one point, but I think it's just not enough.
Yeah, right. Well, one of the last questions is about the nature of democracy versus dictatorships today, not just in Turkey, but in democracies itself. Like, if we look today at the very chambers of democracies, like United States or Great Britain, Europe, we see that people are now mostly and oftenly disillusioned with democratic process. We've just seen, like in Britain, like I've listened to many of their politicians for the last 14 years. They had a conservative government, and most of the population were demanding certain policies from the government about immigration, economics, and so on, and yet the government itself could not deliver them, saying that the political democratic process is so much already corrupted and rigged with so many lobbyists in it and vested interests, that it's impossible to govern even the country as old democracy as Britain. So what is your stance about that? Because I think we first need to fix our own democracies to give message to dictatorships that we work better than.
I think the people needs to understand, they only have one country that they can live in. Um, every time, even in America, whenever you turn on the news, whenever you have a conversation with one of the politicians, they always attack each other. And I think this is unacceptable because, for example, America, we only have one America, and we need to make this America better together. And that's the key word, together. And every time I go on the news and every time I go on the streets and have conversation with people, people are always attacking the other. That's why when I say we need to build bridges instead of walls, it is so important. I mean, in America, Republicans are attacking the Democrats and Democrats are attacking the Republicans. And there is this huge war between these two parties, you know? And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think they need to come together and try to figure out ways to make this country better together. And the future of democracy and freedom relies on the I think active participation of citizens and protecting of human rights and the promotion of democratic values globally. Um, it is it is important to safeguard democratic institutions and uphold the rule of law and ensure transparency and accountability in defending democracy from its threats. So I think that the first thing we need to do is the work on ourselves, the not to attack each other, not to attack the other parties, but try to figure out ways to build bridges between two parties or um, two sides.
Right. I agree, but it would be quite a challenge to succeed in that because I think for the essential thing for democracy to function is not just to have political parties, to have parliament and all these structural things, but to have, like you said in the beginning, empathy, to have appreciation from both political spectrums, for not just to listen each other, but also to appreciate from the left to the right that your policies are also needed. We understand that, and vice versa, from the right to the left. Also, your policies are sometimes needed because for the last 50 years, I get the impression that in America, we were constantly just, seeing down or looking down upon people who are more conservative or traditionalist or more pro-business oriented, and they were often looked down upon as, subhumans, basically. And I cannot understand why they developed this anti-democratic movement around Trump often, that is so disillusioned.
I actually love this quote: when the love of power gets beaten by power of love, we are going to have a better and brighter future. So I think that the common goal should be bringing peace and love into this world. And once you are corrupt by power, then that's where things started to go down. So
it was a long time quote from one of the philosophers here that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So that's the essence of democracy. We have to limit the power. Just the last question. I'm just interested, just personally for you, like how do you currently live, just psychologically? Do you feel threatened by Turkish agents, or do you need surveillance or safe personal guards or something like that?
So they put my name on Interpol list. I can only now go to 29 countries in the world. I actually would love to come to Slovenia, but I really never had a chance other than when I was a little kid. So just because of my name is on Interpol list, I have to be very careful of where I travel. And secondly, just recently, actually, they put a bounty on my head. So yes, every place I go to, I have to be in touch with either some of my friends or FBI all the time, and so it's very tough way to live, because think about it, that in you can only go to 29 countries and you have a bounty on your head and you haven't seen your family almost 10 years now.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a tough life, I think, but I think at the end, this fight has to be given, and some people have to make some kind of sacrifices so we can have a better future. Yes, every place, even in America, every place I go to, I have to let either one of my friend or FBI know where I'm going, so they have a better understanding of what I'm doing.
Oh, so American government is providing, some safety for you, right? That's good. But it just blows my mind today in this modern world. So many people, they're like, oh, I have such a stressful life, stressful job. I need to relax, do this routine, but they can't imagine your life, right? And I can't imagine what do you do? Like, can you sleep peacefully? Like, is it possible to sleep peacefully now when you have a bounty on your head?
Just because of I know what I'm doing is God's work. At night, I do go to sleep peacefully, but at the same time, I have to be very careful of what I'm doing or where I'm going, because these dictators, and I'm not only talking about Turkey, I have been, talking about the problems that are happening in China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba. There are so many other dictatorships that we are doing so many different kind of projects, and that really bothers them. Because of the MBA platform, it became a kind of conversation. So for that reason, I do have to be careful of what I'm doing or where I'm going. But at night, I do sleep peacefully because of I think what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is God's work.
So basically, faith in God and your mission helps you to be peaceful in yourself, even all of the adversity that you. Wow, that's truly amazing. You really cannot go to Slovenia? Is it like it would be dangerous for you to go to Slovenia, all right? Why? Before you mentioned,
I have not. So every place I travel to, I have to get in touch with someone from the government. And I think for me to come to Slovenia, I need to get in touch with some people in government and have a conversation with the foreign desk and see what they say. But I mean, of course, I would love to come to Slovenia. It's a big basketball country. I mean, because of Luka Doncic, I mean, Slovenia is one of the most well-known country in sports right now. So I would, of course, I actually have some Turkish friends in Slovenia, but maybe in the future, if I can get in touch with someone from the government, but it will be nice to visit for sure.
Yeah, let me know. I'll try to get in touch with the government people or with influential people here if you would ever want to go.
That'd be amazing, man.
Enes, really much honored, and thank you for this hour of time that you sacrificed for the talk with us. I'll try to, as I said, I'll try to make a big story, nice story of what we had, a conversation we had, and present you to our Slovenian public.
Perfect. That'll be amazing, brother. Thank you so much.
I wish you to stay safe and good luck.